First contact. She was a joke to them. The sky changed. At first, people thought it was just a shadow, maybe a cloud or a strange weather pattern. But then it grew larger, darker, and suddenly the world saw it. A ship. Not human. Not from this planet, floating high above Earth like a silent god. Every country went into panic. TV screens everywhere flashed with breaking news. Unknown object in orbit, possibly alien. It didn't attack. It didn't speak. It just watched for 48 hours. Then, a message appeared on every screen, every phone, every radio, in every language at once. We come in peace. Send us your best. We will speak to one. Governments argued. Scientists debated. Who should go? In the end, one name came forward again and again. Dr. Elira Knox. A strange choice, many said. She wasn't a world leader. She wasn't a military officer. She was a scientist, a language expert. Known for being sarcastic, stubborn, and too bold with her words, she had no patience for politics or pride. But she had one thing others didn't. She had studied the stars before anyone cared. And maybe the aliens already knew her name. Elira stood on the launch pad looking up at the sky. A quiet smile touched her lips. She didn't seem scared. She looked bored. A reporter ran to her. "Do you feel ready, Dr. Knox?" She laughed. "I was ready 5 years ago. They're just late." Then she climbed into the pod, and the world watched as she was sent up to the alien ship. Inside the ship, everything was silent. Smooth walls, no doors, no lights. Just a soft glow from nowhere. Then he entered. Xenteral, High Diplomat of the Varan Empire. Tall, silver-skinned, with dark eyes that never blinked, his voice echoed without sound. "You are the chosen human," he said. "Lucky." "Me?" Elira replied with a shrug. Xenteral tilted his head. "You seem unimpressive." Elira smiled. "You seem shiny." He frowned. "Are you not afraid?" She looked around. "Of what? Your furniture?" Xenteral turned to his assistant, speaking in his own language. "This is who they send? This is their best?" His assistant replied quietly. "Perhaps she is hiding something." "Or perhaps," Xenteral said, "humans are just jokes." Xenteral began the meeting. He spoke of stars and peace, of how many species the Varan Empire had contacted, of how lucky humanity was. Elira interrupted. "You mean lucky to be still alive?" Xenteral's eyes narrowed. "No, lucky to be chosen. Most are not." "Right," Elira said, "because peace always begins with ships bigger than cities floating over someone's home. We come to observe, to understand," Xenteral said. "You come to judge," Elira replied. "Just say it." Xenteral stared at her. "You are not like other species. They showed respect." "And look where that got them," she said. He handed her a small cube. It glowed with symbols. "Solve this. It is a test of mind." Elira turned it around in her hand, looked bored, and drew a smiley face on one side. She handed it back. "Are you mocking me?" Xenteral asked. "No," she said. "I'm mocking the test." He looked at the cube. The symbols had changed. His assistant gasped. The cube now showed a perfect sequence, one known only to high-level Varan leaders. Xenteral froze. "How do you know this code?" he asked. Elira leaned back and smiled. "Maybe I'm lucky." The room was silent for a long time. Finally, Xenteral spoke. "We believed humans to be simple, full of emotion, slow to learn. You seem different." "I am," Elira said, "but I'm also very human." "Then explain your purpose," Xenteral said. "Why did your kind send someone who mocks even her own species?" She stood up, walking slowly around the room. "Because I see clearly, and I say things others are too scared to say." Do you think your species is ready for contact? Xantaral asked. She stopped walking. Her voice became quiet. You think this is first contact, she said. But it's not. Xantaral stared at her. What do you mean? Elira looked up at the ceiling, at the stars beyond. Let's just say, you're not the first visitors, just the first to be invited in. Xantaral's voice grew sharp. Explain. Elira turned to him and smiled again. Let's keep the mystery alive, shall we? Then she whispered to herself. Let them think I'm stupid. That's when it works best. The alien's test, and her unexpected answer, the room felt colder. Now Xantaral stood still, staring at the cube in his hand. What just happened was not possible. The human woman, weak, loud, full of jokes, had just answered a question no species ever solved on first contact. A question not even shared with their allies. He turned the cube again. The symbol she drew was not just a smiley face. It was a rare ancient code used by Varan military leaders thousands of years ago. A secret only the inner circle knew, and this human knew it. Elira Knox sat calmly in the center of the glowing room, arms crossed, humming a song to herself. Xantaral's assistant whispered, She should not know that code. It was lost in our history. Even I do not know how to read it. Xantaral didn't respond. He stepped closer to Elira. How do you know this symbol? He asked. She raised an eyebrow. Which one? The smiley face or the war signal buried in your dead language? His heart skipped. Who taught you? He asked. Elira leaned forward. No one. We found your signal 10 years ago. The silence cracked like ice. That's impossible, Xantaral said. We made no contact before now. True, Elira said. You didn't. But we found something floating past Mars. Xantaral froze. He knew what she meant. A scouting probe, long lost, sent by the Varan Empire to scan primitive species. Without them knowing. It was damaged, she continued, but not dead. Your probe whispered secrets before it died. We listened. Xantaral's eyes narrowed. So that is why they chose you. They didn't choose me, she said. I chose to go. Xantaral stepped back, deep in thought. This changed everything. He had come here expecting to meet a proud, emotional, desperate species begging for peace or help. Instead, he found someone who already knew more than she should. Someone calm, clever, and dangerous. But something still didn't add up. Why do you act foolish? He asked. You mock us, you mock yourself. Are you playing a role? Elira shrugged. Most people believe what they see. If I look like a joke, you'll lower your guard. And then, I get to watch you more closely. Suddenly the room shook slightly. The lights flickered. Xantaral looked up. What is that? Elira didn't even flinch. Your ship just moved. Defensive protocol, right? His assistant checked the panel. There's a human satellite. Watching us closely, Elira smiled. Not a satellite, a mirror, a weapon maybe, or maybe just a warning. You threaten us? Xantaral asked. No, she replied calmly. You're already in our sky. You threatened yourselves. Xantaral walked slowly around her now, observing her like a puzzle. I still don't understand. What do you want? Elira looked serious now. Truth. Not from you, from your empire. What are you doing here, really? Peace, Xantaral repeated. Liar, she said. You didn't come for peace. You came to check if we're useful or dangerous. She leaned in closer. And if we were too weak, what would happen next? Xantaral didn't answer. He didn't need to. Then Elira stood up. Let's stop pretending, she said. You tested me. Now I test you. Xantaral raised his head. You wish to test me? Yes, she said. Here's your question. How many species have you wiped out before reaching us? His face didn't move. That information is classified. So is our real defense system. Elira smiled. But you see how that works? Xantaral remained silent. For the first time, he looked unsure. Elira took a deep breath and stepped closer to a panel. The room responded. Symbols lit up beneath her hand. His assistant gasped. How is she controlling our ship? You shouldn't have let me touch the cube, she said. It shared your tech language. I learn fast. What are you doing? Xenderal asked, stepping forward. Nothing. Dangerous, she said. Just sending a message. To whom? Elira turned slowly to him. To Earth. To let them know I'm fine. And that your ship is just as easy to read as your mind. The message went through. A simple pulse. On Earth, quiet alarms went. Off in deep underground rooms. Signals traced the alien ship's energy pattern. Everything was being recorded. Elira crossed her arms again. Now tell me, Xentoral, if this is just a friendly visit, why did your ship come armed? Xentoral finally spoke, voice low. Because not all species stay friendly. Elira nodded. Good. Then you understand us already. His assistant stepped forward. Sir, we are being scanned by Earth systems. She opened a path. Xentoral didn't stop her. He turned to Elira. This was never a first contact for you, he said. No, she agreed. This is my second. Then what happened during the first, he asked. She looked at him, eyes sharp now. No jokes, we shot it down. What humanity hid from the universe, the stars above Earth had always been silent. Or at least that's what the world believed. But in truth, they had been whispering for years, in strange codes, bursts of sound, hidden signals bouncing across, planets like secrets lost in time. And someone had been listening, not governments, not world leaders. A quiet group, hidden from the public eye. Scientists, hackers, linguists, former spies, people who never fit in. They called themselves Mirror Project. Elira Knox was one of the first. 10 years ago, they found it. A broken object orbiting near Mars. Not natural, not human. Half of it was melted, the other half alive. Alien. They brought it down piece by piece. Not through war, but through patience. They didn't tell the world. They didn't ask for permission. They simply watched, learned, and waited, inside. That object they found more than tech. They found a language, a blueprint, and a warning. Back aboard the alien ship, Xentoral stood frozen. His long fingers tapped the glowing panel nervously. He had just heard Elira say it. We shot it. Down. His mind raced. So much of what he thought about humans was wrong. They weren't slow. They weren't innocent. They were silent by choice. You knew we were watching you? Xentoral asked. No, Elira said, walking slowly around him. We didn't even know you existed, not until your machine passed too close. That was just a probe, he replied. Yes, and your empire calls it lost. But we found it. And we didn't just look at it. We took it apart. Xentoral's assistant stepped forward, visibly shaken. This is a violation. An act of war. Elira laughed lightly. Funny. Sending spy probes isn't? Xentoral spoke quietly. You learned our language through the machine. More than your language, she said. Your technology, your structure, your way of thinking. Xentoral's voice sharpened. If you knew so much, why pretend to be weak? Elira turned to him, calm and cold. Because the universe doesn't respect kindness. It respects power. And silence is the best mask for danger. She reached into her coat and pulled out a small metal disc. It hummed softly. This is what we built from your probe, she said. We called it the mirror key. What does it do? Xentoral asked. Depends on who's holding it, she replied. In the wrong hands, it could bring down ships like yours. Suddenly, the room dimmed. The alien ship's lights pulsed red. Xentoral looked at his assistant. Report. Earth has activated defense systems, she said. There are satellites locking onto our signal. Elira stepped forward. No missiles, no violence. Just a reminder, we're not waiting anymore. Xentoral's voice dropped. You planned this. You turned this meeting into a trap. Not a trap, Elira said. A test like the one you gave me. Flashback, 3 years ago. Underground bunker. A group of human scientists crowded around the probe's memory core. Elira stood beside a screen watching fragments of alien messages play over and over. Patterns, voice commands, blinking lights. No one understood it. Not at first. But she saw something, a rhythm, a hidden layer of language buried under the main signal. She followed it, and it led her to the symbol, the same one she drew on the cube, the one only High Varan commanders knew. A military order: observe, then decide, remove if weak. It wasn't just a message, it was a policy. Back in the present, Zentoral stared at Elira in silence. "You think we came here to destroy you?" he said finally. "No," she replied. "I think you came here to decide if we're worth sparing." The tension in the ship grew heavy. "You're wrong," Zentoral said. "We don't erase civilizations, we guide them." Elira's eyes narrowed. "How many have you guided off the map?" He said nothing. The silence was broken by a sharp sound, a call from the alien bridge. Zentoral turned to his assistant. "What is it?" she answered carefully. "A second Varan ship is approaching. Not diplomatic. A war vessel." Elira smiled slowly. "There it is," she said. "The real reason you're here." Zentoral turned sharply to her. "We didn't call reinforcements." "No," Elira said, "but your empire did. Standard protocol, right? If a species shows potential threat, prepare for containment." Zentoral's face went pale. Even he hadn't known. Elira walked to the center of the room, the ship responding to her every step. Panels lit up. "We've been preparing too," she said. "Not for war, for truth." She turned to him. "But now the truth is this. If that ship attacks Earth, we'll defend ourselves." Zentoral stared at her. "You would fight a power older than your entire species?" Elira gave him a look that held no fear. "We already did. We just didn't tell anyone." The ship trembled again. Red lights flashed. Warning signs appeared in alien symbols. The second ship was close now. Elira looked up. "You wanted to meet humanity?" she said softly. "Now you will." The hidden war begins space looked calm from Earth, a silent canvas of stars, distant and still. But above the planet, beyond the clouds and the illusion of peace, something had shifted. Something dangerous had entered orbit. A second alien ship. 20 times larger than the first. No smooth silver surface, no soft light or diplomatic tone. This one was sharp, dark, armored, a warship, and it wasn't here to talk. Zentoral stood in the center of his ship, eyes locked on the growing shadow in the distance. He wasn't smiling anymore. He hadn't asked for this ship, hadn't called for backup, but it had come anyway. Protocol 7, observe, evaluate, eliminate. He turned slowly toward Elira Knox, who now stood calmly, watching the data screens light up with new alerts. This wasn't supposed to happen, Zentoral said. "But it always does," Elira replied. "Years ago, when Project Mirror first decoded the alien probe, they found more than just a language. They found logs, records of other worlds, other species, full lists. Some welcomed the Varan Empire with open arms. Some resisted, some hid, but none of them existed anymore." Elira read those logs, all of them, and one message kept repeating: "Prepare primary fleet. Subject population. Exceeded tolerance level." It didn't say enemy, it said subject. The second ship now hovered above the moon, silent but glowing with power. Its weapons systems were online. Its scanners pointed toward Earth. Elira turned toward Zentoral. "Your people are about to start a war they can't finish. You don't understand what's coming," Zentoral said, his voice low. "That ship doesn't wait for orders. It follows a timeline. If they detect non-compliance, they strike." "And what exactly does non-compliance mean to them?" Elira asked. "That we think for ourselves? That we don't kneel fast enough?" He said nothing. Deep under the Pacific Ocean, a hidden base came to life. No names, no flags, just blinking green lights and voices speaking in codes. A woman in a white coat stared at the monitors. Signal confirmed, Omega ship has arrived. A man in a suit nodded. Does Nox have control? She opened the path, the woman replied. We're connected. We wait for her mark. They weren't soldiers. They were the silence protocol. The part of Project Mirror no one was ever supposed to know about. They didn't defend nations. They defended the species. Elira turned her eyes to the ceiling of the alien ship, where the image of Earth now shimmered like a reflection on water. I never wanted it to come to this, she said. Then stop it, Xenteral replied. Warn your people. No, she said calmly. You stop it. Call your ship off. I can't. They won't listen to me. Then we move to stage 2, Elira said. She placed the mirror key device on the floor. It began to glow. Across the planet, secret defense systems powered up. Not missiles, not lasers, but satellites, built from reverse-engineered alien tech. They didn't shoot. They mirrored. They reflected energy back at its source. If the Varan warship fired, it would be like shooting into a mirror made of human anger, fear, and patience worn thin. On the alien bridge, alarms screamed. Xenteral's assistant shouted, They're activating shield pulses around the planet. It's Varan. Tech but altered. He stared at Elira. How much did you learn from that probe? She looked back at him with cold eyes. Enough to know how to kill a god. Back in the warship, the Varan commander watched the Earth through his display. His face showed no emotion. This species resists, said his officer. Then initiate cleansing protocol, the commander replied. Wait, the officer said. Our diplomat. He is still aboard. The commander did not blink. Acceptable loss. On Xenteral's ship, Elira's device pulsed one final time. The message was sent. 3 words. Phase 1 ready. Then, for the first time in her life, Elira Nox looked afraid, not because of the alien ship, but because of what would happen if her plan worked. Xenteral turned. To her, voice tight, What have you done? She looked at him and whispered, I've opened the door you tried to keep shut. A blue light spread from her device, covering the floor. Symbols danced in the air. Not human, not alien. Something in between. What is that? Xenteral demanded. The final test, Elira said. For us, and for you. The room shook violently. A sudden pulse struck the ship from outside. It wasn't an attack. It was a signal from Earth. A signal that said, we are no longer hiding. The warship above the moon powered its main cannon. On Earth, every mirrored satellite locked onto its energy signature. Above them both. The hidden war began. Diplomat or prisoner? Space was watching. It had seen stars burn and vanish. It had watched planets beg for mercy before they were turned to dust. But Earth was doing something strange. Earth was not begging. The Varan warship hovered above the moon like a giant sword waiting to drop. Its cannons glowed with silent power. Its commanders were ready, but the humans didn't run. Instead, they activated mirrors. Hundreds of defense satellites, small, quiet, and deadly, had locked onto the warship's energy. They didn't fire. They simply waited, ready to reflect any blast right back. A trap made of alien tech, born from stolen knowledge and built in silence. Inside the diplomatic ship, Xenteral stood frozen. This was no longer a meeting. This was a standoff, and he was no longer a diplomat. He was something else now, a guest who knew too much, or a threat trapped inside enemy hands. You have 2 choices now, Elira Nox said softly, walking toward him. Talk, or be locked away with the rest of history's mistakes. Xenteral didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. He was watching the screens, watching the warship prepare its first strike. His voice finally came, low and bitter. They're going to destroy your planet. Elira's eyes were cold. They'll try. Your satellites are clever, he said, but they won't stop a second wave. Who said we only have satellites? A sudden pulse passed through the diplomatic ship. Centaural turned. What was that? Stage 2, Elira said calmly. A code sent from Earth. A signal that unlocks our next line of defense. You don't have the firepower to match us. We don't need to match you, she said. We just need to outthink you. And that part's already done. Flashback. 5 years ago. Project Mirror's secret facility, scientists argued. The recovered Varan core was dangerous, unstable, unreadable. Every attempt to connect with it triggered alarms. Except one. Elira Knox sat alone with the device for 9 hours straight. No food, no rest. Just her, a notebook, and the strange humming of the alien tech. She wasn't trying to break it. She was trying to understand it like a language. And then at 3:41 a.m. it answered her, not in words, in a shared dream. We built something from that dream, she said now, eyes still locked on Centaural, a system that watches everything that moves in orbit. A net. You step into it and it holds you. Then why am I still alive? Centaural asked. Because you're not the threat, she replied. Your warship is. He turned away from the screen. You still think diplomacy can work? No, Elira said. I think you can work. Centaural blinked. Me? You know your empire, she said. You know how they think. You know what they fear. They fear nothing. Wrong, she said. They fear anything that learns too fast, anything that refuses to stay quiet. She walked closer, placed a small black case on the table between them. It opened silently. Inside, a small round object glowing deep red. What is this? Centaural asked. A mirror core, Elira said. Our version of what your probe carried. It can send a message strong enough to cut through your empire's layers of firewalls. And what message will you send? Elira leaned in. That Earth is not prey. Centaural stared at the core, then at her. He saw no anger in her face. Only purpose, calculated, focused, dangerous purpose. He took a breath. If I help you, they will label me a traitor. If you don't, she said, they'll kill you anyway. You failed to prepare the planet for cleansing. They'll blame you. You don't know that. Yes, she said softly. I do. It was in the logs. The diplomats are always the first to fall. Centaural turned away, quiet for a long moment. The ship outside was charging its main cannon. His own people were preparing to destroy the very species he now sat among. And yet, the humans had been more honest with him than his own commanders. Fine, he said at last. I'll help. Not good enough, Elira replied. I need full access codes, control signals, command paths. If you're in, you're all in. He looked at her, and for the first time she saw something crack inside him. Not fear, regret. They taught us humans were insects, he whispered. But you're something else. We always were, she said. You just never looked. Close enough? She handed him a tablet. On it, a blank screen, waiting for a code. This is your moment, Centaural, she said. Become more than what they built you to be. His fingers hovered over the screen, then slowly, with shaking hands. He entered the command. The warship paused, its cannon dimmed, its targeting stopped. In the human command base, red lights switched to green. A voice said, Signal intercepted. Threat level reduced. Elira looked at Centaural. Now, we talk. He nodded. Yes, but not just about peace. We need to talk about what's coming next. The real enemy arrives. The warship stopped. The cannon dimmed. Targeting systems froze. And in that moment, just seconds long, the Earth sighed in relief. Above the clouds, beneath orbit, and inside bunkers across continents, people paused. Elira Knox had done the impossible. She had made an alien warship hesitate. But deep inside, she knew something was wrong. It was too easy, Too quiet. Too soon. We just delayed the inevitable, she whispered. Xanderall stood beside, her pale and stiff, as if the weight of what he'd done hadn't hit him yet. He had betrayed his empire, saved a planet he was meant to help judge, and now, something in the stars was waking up, something that wasn't Varan. The stars blinked again, not with light, but with movement. Minutes later, Earth's deep space. Scanners picked it up, a distortion, cold, enormous, and invisible to the naked eye, a gravitational wave. Not natural, not friendly, and it was heading straight toward them. In the Silence Protocol's hidden base, a woman dropped her coffee as data scrolled across her screen. "What is that?" she whispered. "It's not Varan," her supervisor said. "It's following their warship." In Zentaral's ship, alarms began ringing, but not human alarms. Ancient ones. Alien ones. Zentaral rushed to the front display. No. They found us." Elira stepped forward. "Who?" His voice cracked. "The architects." Flashback, Zentaral, 19 years ago, training in the Empire's command halls. A forbidden lecture, whispered behind sealed doors. The architects are not gods. They are errors. Glitches in reality that became aware. Their purpose is unknown. Their logic beyond us. They do not invade. They overwrite. Only top-level diplomats knew of them. Even fewer survived after seeing them. Elira turned to him, confused. "You said your empire was the strongest." "We are, Xantoral," said, his voice shaking. "But even we hide from them. Why are they here now?" "Because you used the mirror key." The signal was too strong. It echoed beyond our galaxy. And now, they're coming. Far beyond Earth, a shape began to appear. Not a ship. Voided like someone cut space itself and forgot to close the wound. From within it came soundless noise. Not heard, but felt. Pressure. Whispers inside thoughts. Humans who had never known fear suddenly clutched their chests. Earth's animals screamed for no reason, and children cried without knowing why. On the Varan warship, the commander screamed orders, "Retreat, retreat," but it was too late. The ship's engines locked. Not by force, by something deeper. Rewritten at the code level. On Xantoral's ship, Elira saw the warship begin to shift. Its metal warped. Its lights turned inwards. It folded, like it was being deleted. She gasped. "It's not dying." "No," Xantoral whispered. "It's being edited." "How do we fight that?" she asked. Xantoral shook his head. "You don't. Not with ships, not with weapons." "Then with what?" "With something they can't predict." He turned to her. "You." Earth was not their target. Not at first. They came to see who sent the pulse. Who dared use tech meant. For gods, the architects did not care about sides, they only cared about control. "You said they overwrite," Elira said. "Overwrite what?" "Everything," Xantoral replied. "They rewrite matter, thought, time. They've destroyed entire systems without ever firing a weapon." "Then how are we still here?" "Because they're watching, learning, testing." The diplomatic ship groaned, lights flickered. Then, a hole opened in space. Not a black hole, a window. On the other side was not fire, or darkness, but images, flashes of Earth, humans, wars, joy, laughter, betrayal, history, all of it. The architects were downloading everything. "They're creating a profile," Xantoral said, "to decide." "Decide what?" "If your story is worth keeping." Elira stood, heart pounding. "You said they can't predict me," she said. "Why?" "Because you act against logic. You choose chaos over control." She smiled. "Sounds human to me." Deep inside the mirror core, a final program awakened. Elira had prepared for this. She never trusted diplomacy alone. Never trusted power alone. She had trusted choice. A hidden message launched from Earth. Not data. A decision. Sent as a paradox. A loop in code. A story with no ending. A question that could not be solved. And the architects paused. They didn't understand. They tried again. And failed again. Centaural stared in shock. What did you send them? Elira smiled faintly. I asked them a question no machine can answer. What question? She turned to him. What makes a story beautiful for the first time in centuries? The architects withdrew, not in fear but in confusion. The void closed. The warship remained, broken but intact. The stars returned to silence. Centaural sank to the floor. Elira stood tall. Now, she said, we talk about the future. Not yours, not mine, ours. She mocked them, but she saved them all Earth had survived. But it hadn't won. Not in the way most would understand. The Varan warship was crippled, its weapons offline, its leaders silent. The architects had vanished, not in defeat, but in hesitation. And in the heart of it all, one woman stood at the edge of history, staring into the silence she had helped create. Dr. Elira Knox, the woman who mocked the universe, and then made it listen. Days passed. Governments demanded answers. Leaders wanted names, weapons, proof, but none of them truly understood what had happened. They wanted to count ships, not silences. They wanted to build missiles, not mirrors. Elira ignored them all. She had one job left. Centaural sat in a sealed chamber beneath the Pacific, not as a prisoner, but not quite a guest. The room was calm, neutral, a place between two worlds, just like him. He looked up as the door opened. Elira entered. No guards, no weapons, just her and the diplomat who once judged her entire species unworthy. How's the view? She asked. He smiled faintly. Peaceful, unexpected. Just like us, she said. They'll come again, Centaural said softly. Maybe not the architects, maybe not the Empire, but someone else will see this planet and wonder if it's ready. Then we'll surprise them too, she replied. He studied her for a moment. Do you still mock your own kind? He asked. She chuckled. Every day. Why? Because laughter is the only thing we have that machines can't fake. It's messy, pointless, brilliant. He nodded slowly. It confused them. Good, she said. Confusion is the beginning of respect. Flashback on days earlier inside the architect's signal field. Elira's paradox message looped endlessly. The machines couldn't answer the question, what makes a story beautiful? They could measure patterns, emotion, structure, endings. But they couldn't understand why humans told stories that didn't end. Stories filled with loss, betrayal, hope, nonsense, and humor. They couldn't understand sacrifice for love. They couldn't measure choice without reason. They backed off, not because of strength, but because of something stronger, unpredictability. Now, back in the present, Elira stood before a global screen. Not a politician, not a general, just a voice. But a voice the galaxy had heard, and she spoke to the world. We were judged, first by an empire, then by something far worse, but we didn't fight back with fear. We didn't win with weapons. We survived because we remembered who we are. Not perfect, not peaceful, but powerful bars in our refusal to follow anyone's script. Let them come again. Let them watch. And when they do, we'll make sure they see the same thing they saw this time. A planet that laughs at gods and writes its own ending. Far beyond the solar system, the architect's signal drifted through dark space, still looping, still unanswered, and other species, quiet ones, hiding in shadows, heard the message too. They had feared Earth, but now they were curious. In a dark command room within the Varan Empire, a new leader reviewed the incident report. Subject species, human status, unstable risk, high conclusion, do not engage, directly observe from distance, do not provoke. He closed the file with cold hands. The Empire would think twice now. Back on Earth, Centaural stood beside Elira watching the sunrise. You made your entire planet into a question, he said. That's how humans fight, she replied. With ideas, with contradictions, with something your empire will never master. What's that? She smiled. Wonder. As the light rose over a changed world, ships were being built, not for war, but for warning. Messages sent into space. We're not hostile, but we're not harmless. And in one deep corner of the final message, encoded and subtle, were the words Elira herself wrote. This is not the end of our story. This is the part where it gets interesting.